And with the cost of living already so high,
Right now, I'm stopping and checking prices, reconsidering purchases. Absolutely. It stopped me dead in my tracks.
this trade war will mean there's nothing affordable left.
As gas prices soar past $5 a gallon and everyday Americans struggle to afford basic goods, a chilling question emerges. Is this just another global economic downturn, or a carefully engineered wealth transfer disguised as tax relief and national protection? According to Elizabeth Pancotti, former advisor to Senator Bernie Sanders, we are witnessing far more than favoritism toward the wealthy. What's unfolding is a triple-hit economic assault on working-class America. The first blow? Tariffs. What Pancotti describes as a reverse sales tax that hits the poor hardest. Trump's so-called tariff pause still maintains a 10% blanket tax on all imports, with a staggering 145% on goods from China. According to Yale Budget Lab, these tariffs will cost the average U.S. household $4,789 per year, while most families receive less than $500 in tax relief. Meanwhile, the top 1% of earners enjoy an average tax cut of $60,000 annually. That's not a coincidence. That's policy, by design. If you think this has never happened before, think again. Back in 1929, President Herbert Hoover implemented the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act, imposing massive duties on over 20,000 imported goods. The result? A worldwide depression, massive unemployment, and economic collapse. Now, history is repeating itself, only more subtly, more strategically, and with better PR. This time, they're selling economic warfare as American revival. The second punch comes in the form of massive tax cuts for the rich, a strategy first tested under Ronald Reagan, who slashed the top income tax rate from 70% to just 28%. Initially praised, this move led to a 2.5x surge in income inequality between 1982 and 1988, and the beginning of America's skyrocketing national debt. The 2017 Trump tax cuts were not new. They were part of the same playbook. And now we're paying the price. The third, and perhaps most dangerous, move was the deliberate defunding of the IRS, crippling its ability to audit the ultra-wealthy. Between 2012 and 2020, IRS enforcement budget was cut by 20%, leading to a 72% drop in audits of high-income taxpayers, according to the Center for Economic and Policy Research. While wage workers get taxed at the source, billionaires operate in a parallel universe. Offshore accounts, shell companies, crypto portfolios, unchecked, unchallenged, and untouchable. At the same time, massive corporations like Tesla, helmed by Elon Musk, a close ally of the Trump administration, secured government investment incentives in both the U.S. and abroad, even as Americans saw electricity bills rise, grocery prices spike, and public services gutted. Public outrage is growing. Candace Peterson from Ohio didn't hold back. Only morons believe Republicans care about them. They have always only cared about the rich. When are people going to wake up? Vince, a disillusioned voter from Wisconsin, lamented, "We knew from last time that his tax breaks favored the wealthy but voted for him anyway. He is taking a wrecking ball to our economy and our freedoms." Even Trump's infamous claim that Canada imposes a 270% tariff on U.S. dairy turned out to be half true at best. That rate only applies if America exceeds import quotas, which it hasn't done in over 3 years. But facts weren't the point. The narrative was the weapon. As Donna Pisani, a single mother from Pennsylvania, sarcastically put it, "Weren't the Republicans thinking about putting kids to work?" While everyday Americans struggle with inflation, soaring utility bills, and car prices inflated by broken supply chains, the government has effectively handed the keys of the economy to billionaires like Musk, even granting him oversight of federal budget cuts, including Medicare, Social Security, and public education. This isn't tax reform. This is an economic restructuring, one where the poor fund the private jets, mega yachts, and political empires of the ultra-rich. Think this is just incompetence? Think again. The U.S. national debt rose by $8 trillion under Trump's presidency. GDP growth has stalled at 2.5%, and basic services are being gutted. But instead of a course correction, we get more spin, more manipulation, more looting disguised as relief. Don't take your eyes off the screen. The next chapter will uncover leaked documents and secret alliances that are quietly rewriting America as you know it.
President Trump threatening to slap China with additional tariffs.
China, the dominant global supplier of rare earth elements, has escalated its economic influence.
The trade war between the United States and China keeps ratcheting up.
April 4th, 2025, marked a seismic shift in global trade dynamics, a day that sent ripples through markets and governments alike. Picture this: China, the powerhouse behind 90% of the world's rare earth elements, suddenly halts exports of 7 critical materials, a calculated response to U.S. President Donald Trump's tariff escalation on Chinese imports. But what does this mean for the global landscape and, crucially, for the industries that depend on these rare resources? Let's set the scene. The rare earth elements targeted include samarium, gadolinium, terbium, dysprosium, lutetium, scandium, and yttrium. These aren't just obscure names, but integral cogs in the machinery of modern technology and defense. Imagine trying to produce electric vehicles, jet engines, or even state-of-the-art semiconductors without these materials. Suddenly, the world's supply chain finds its back against the wall. With a monopoly over 92% of global production capacity for high-performance magnets derived from these elements, China possesses an unparalleled strategic advantage. Exporters pinpoint that obtaining a license to ship these minerals can take weeks, a bureaucratic maze that further chokes the supply line. Some analysts warn that major players, especially those in the U.S. defense sector, might be permanently edged out due to China's opaque regulatory framework. Immediate repercussions are visible on a landscape of soaring prices. Dysprosium oxide, for instance, has seen prices rocket from $295 per kilogram in early March to over $330 by mid-April. A domino effect ensues, affecting the pricing dynamics of other essential materials, creating an environment of uncertainty and economic strain. The United States finds itself in a precarious position. Between 2020 and 2023, nearly 70% of its rare earth imports were attributable to China, with the nation almost wholly reliant on imports for elements like yttrium. This dependency casts a spotlight on the inadequacies of the U.S. refining infrastructure. Case in point, MP Materials, operator of America's only significant rare earth mine, Mountain Pass, still sends its raw ore to China for processing due to limitations at home. Efforts are bubbling up, such as those by Lynas Rare Earths in Australia, attempting to diffuse this dependency. However, they fall short in the face of galloping global demand, predicted to spike up to 10% annually through 2035, fueled by electric vehicles and renewable energy projects. This isn't just about economics. This export ban serves as a stark reminder of the fragile interdependence of global economies and the geopolitical leverage that resource control confers. With stockpiles predicted to run dry in less than 2 months without alternative sources, the U.S. is staring at a strategic vulnerability. Industry experts stress that China's mastery over complex solvent extraction techniques, key to refining processes, leaves few contenders capable of filling the void swiftly. As industries scrabble to secure alternative sources, it's evident that new alliances and supply routes will have to be forged, potentially reshaping global partnerships and provoking significant shifts in diplomatic engagements. Here lies the irony and the challenge. This crisis might be a clarion call for innovation, urging nations like the U.S. to recalibrate their strategies and invest heavily in domestic capabilities. Yet the road is long and fraught with challenges. The sustained export restrictions are a pivotal test, not just of resilience, but of creativity in re-engineering supply chains and fostering technological advancements in material science and sustainable mining practices. In navigating this rare earth reckoning, countries and corporations alike are compelled to think beyond the immediate crisis. In a world where geopolitical strategy is interwoven with economic dependency, this moment might herald an era defined by substantial investments in self-reliant renewable resources. Viewers, take heed. As complexities unravel in this geopolitical chess game, it becomes imperative for policymakers, industry leaders, and even the informed citizen to remain vigilant, to question, and to engage with solutions that secure not just economic stability, but also geopolitical equilibrium. Now is the time to act, to innovate, and to look forward with an eye firmly set on sustainable sovereignty.
Now, U.S. President Donald Trump has reignited criticism of long-standing U.S.-Japan security treaty.
Shocker from Tokyo. Japan just gave the world a masterclass in emotional diplomacy after Donald Trump dropped a tariff bomb that sent markets reeling. With America back under Trump's rule, the global trade order is once again being upended. But this time, Japan isn't playing by the old rules. Faced with sudden tariffs and rising economic pressure, Tokyo is choosing a strategy no one saw coming: empathy. But is that wisdom or weakness? As of April 2025, President Donald Trump has reignited his trade war playbook, slapping new tariffs on a range of imports, including Japanese goods.
64%, we're going to charge them 32%. Japan.
And not just any tariffs. We're talking about a 10% levy on non-electric vehicles, hitting Japan's powerhouse auto industry where it hurts. The decision came just weeks after Trump's fiery return to the White House. Citing the same America First rhetoric that defined his first term, Trump made it clear: foreign countries that don't pay up will face the consequences. Japan, one of America's closest allies and largest investors, was blindsided. Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba didn't lash out. He didn't retaliate. Instead, he said something almost no one expected. We must understand President Trump not only logically, but also emotionally. It was a rare glimpse into Japan's quiet but calculated diplomatic mind. But beneath the calm surface, tensions are rising, and Tokyo knows it's standing at a crossroads. The heart of the issue lies in the tariffs themselves. The 10% duty on non-electric vehicles from Japan came alongside broader measures aimed at countries Trump accuses of freeloading off the U.S. economy. In response, Japan's stock market took a hit. The Nikkei index dropped 4.6% the day the news broke. The auto industry, especially giants like Toyota and Honda, immediately began recalculating production costs and export strategies. But Ishiba's government has made it clear: Japan won't be rushed into concessions. According to Newsweek, Japanese officials were puzzled by the decision, especially given that Japanese companies have invested billions into U.S. manufacturing and jobs. Tokyo had expected more nuanced negotiations, not unilateral penalties. And yet, instead of retaliating with counter-tariffs or nationalist rhetoric, Ishiba adopted what some are calling emotional diplomacy, a strategy that aims to understand Trump's motivations and navigate them with patience rather than confrontation. Meanwhile, Japanese negotiators are gearing up for what they privately call an unpredictable game. One trade official told reporters that logic won't be enough this time. Japan's refusal to immediately offer trade concessions signals a profound shift from the past. Under former prime ministers, Tokyo may have opted for quiet compliance to maintain smooth U.S.-Japan ties, but this time they're holding the line, carefully. Why? Because Ishiba knows what Trump values: strength, loyalty, and above all, attention. By choosing emotional intelligence over economic panic, Japan is aiming to keep the door open for dialogue while avoiding the image of being steamrolled by Washington. In doing so, they're hoping to appeal not just to Trump's logic, but to his ego. But it's a risky game. If Trump sees empathy as weakness, the tariffs could deepen, and Japan's export economy, especially in sectors like automobiles and semiconductors, could suffer serious long-term damage. At the same time, Japan is quietly rallying support from other countries also hit by U.S. tariffs, including South Korea, Canada, and EU nations. There's talk of forming a multilateral response, not retaliation, but resilience. If that coalition succeeds, the message to Trump will be loud and clear. The world is watching, and it won't be divided so easily this time. So, where does this all lead? Japan is betting that patience, diplomacy, and a little emotional insight will keep them in the game with Trump, without bending the knee. But in a world where power is flexed more than it's shared, is that a smart play or a losing hand? Will Trump double down? Will Japan's calm defiance pay off? Or are we headed for a trade showdown that could reshape global markets? Let us know what you think in the comments below. And if you want more deep dives into today's power struggles, subscribe, because this story is far from over.
Markets today resuming their plunge.
New tariffs for most countries, while at the same time escalating the U.S.
Impeachment, tariffs, market chaos. If you've been scrolling X or catching the news lately, you've probably seen the bombshell headline: a Murdoch-owned paper suggesting impeaching Donald Trump over his tariff policies. Yeah, you heard that right. But is this just clickbait, or is there something deeper at play? Stick with me for the next 15 minutes as we unpack this wild story, dive into what people are saying on X, and figure out what it all means. Let's get started. Last week, the financial world was rocked when Donald Trump's latest tariff announcement sent markets into a tailspin. Stocks plummeted, investors panicked, and the ripple effects were felt globally. Then, on April 14, 2025, the Daily Beast dropped a bombshell article titled "Murdoch Paper Floats Impeaching Trump Over Tariffs." The piece pointed to a Wall Street Journal column by Holman Jenkins Jr., who didn't hold back, calling Trump's tariff rollout chaotic, and even floating the idea that it could lead to impeachment. But why is this such a big deal? And why is a Murdoch-owned outlet typically seen as conservative-leaning taking this stance? Let's break it down. For those new to the term, tariffs are taxes slapped on imported goods. Trump's been a big fan, arguing they protect American businesses and bring jobs back home. Last Wednesday, he announced sweeping reciprocal tariffs targeting countries like China, Canada, and Mexico. The goal? Level the playing field. The result? A historic stock market crash that had Wall Street screaming. By the end of the day, Trump paused most of those tariffs, except for China's. But the damage was done. So let's talk about this Wall Street Journal column. Holman Jenkins Jr., a seasoned WSJ writer, didn't just criticize Trump's tariffs, he went nuclear. He called the tariff plan ill-founded and said it sparked a trade war that could tank the economy. Here's the kicker. Jenkins wrote that by Wednesday morning, a future Trump impeachment seemed all but guaranteed. Now, impeachment is a big word. It's not thrown around lightly, especially not in a Murdoch paper like the WSJ, which often aligns with pro-business conservative views. So why go there? Jenkins argued that Trump's erratic tariff moves could be seen as reckless enough to justify political blowback. But is this a real possibility, or just one columnist's hot take? To be fair, Trump's tariff pause calmed some nerves. Markets recovered slightly, and his team spun it as a strategic pivot. But Jenkins wasn't buying it. He suggested that the chaos exposed a deeper issue. Trump's go-it-alone style might be too destabilizing for Congress to ignore. Impeachment, though? That's a stretch. Unless there's more to the story. If you want the pulse of what people really think, X is the place to go. This story lit up the platform with thousands weighing in. Let's check out some posts to see the vibe. The one user wrote, "Murdoch paper floats impeaching Trump over tariffs. It's about time someone called out this destruction of our country and the global economy for one corrupt loser's gain." Ouch. Harsh words. Another user kept it short. "Murdoch paper floats impeaching Trump over tariffs," with a link to the Daily Beast. And then there's this. Read "Murdoch paper floats impeaching Trump over tariffs" on Smart News. Clearly, people are fired up. What's interesting is the split. Some ex-users see this as a wake-up call, slamming Trump's tariffs as reckless. Others smell a rat, wondering why a Murdoch outlet would turn on a conservative icon. Is this a coordinated hit, or just one columnist going rogue? Let's dig deeper. To understand why tariffs are such a lightning rod, we need to zoom out. Proponents like Trump say tariffs shield American workers from cheap foreign goods. Critics? They argue tariffs spike prices, hurt consumers, and piss off trading partners who retaliate with their own taxes. History backs this up. Look at the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act of 1930, which deepened the Great Depression. Trump's tariffs targeted goods from China, Canada, and Mexico. Think steel, cars, even maple syrup. The idea was to force these countries to negotiate better trade deals. But when markets crashed, it wasn't just Wall Street feeling the heat. Small businesses, farmers, and everyday shoppers braced for higher prices. No wonder Jenkins called it a trade war. Now, Jenkins isn't saying tariffs alone justify impeachment. His point is that Trump's chaotic rollout, announcing massive tariffs, then backtracking under pressure, could erode trust in his leadership. If Congress sees this as gross mismanagement, impeachment could theoretically come into play. But let's be real. It's a long shot. Okay, let's talk Murdoch. The Wall Street Journal is owned by News Corp, part of Rupert Murdoch's media empire. Murdoch's outlets, like Fox News, have often been Trump-friendly. So why would the WSJ publish a column floating impeachment? Is this a betrayal or something else? Some ex-users think it's a power play. Murdoch's empire thrives on influence, and maybe this is a signal to Trump. Don't mess with the big dogs. Others say it's just Jenkins being Jenkins, a contrarian who's not afraid to ruffle feathers. Either way, it's juicy drama. Here's my take. The WSJ isn't calling for impeachment outright. Jenkins is one voice, Not the paper's official stance, but the fact that this ran in a Murdoch outlet? That's what's got tongues wagging. It's like a plot twist in a political thriller. So, where do we go from here? Trump's paused most tariffs, but China's still in the crosshairs. Markets are shaky, and Congress is watching. Could this really lead to impeachment? Honestly, probably not. Impeachment needs a high bar. Think high crimes and misdemeanors, not just bad policy. But the chatter alone shows how polarized things are. If Trump doubles down on tariffs, expect more market jitters and louder critics. If he pivots to smoother trade talks, this could blow over. Either way, X will be buzzing and we'll be here to break it down. Wow, what a ride. From market crashes to impeachment whispers, this tariff saga is one for the books. What do you think? Are Trump's tariffs genius or disaster? Is the WSJ column a big deal or just noise?